in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving higher.
Hello and welcome to the Moving Iron Podcast. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by Tractor Zoom, where data meets diesel. And I have Kyle McMahon on here from Tractor Zoom, and he's nice enough to come on every so often, just kind of hit the high points, what's going on here in the marketplace. And we are on the eve here, very closely keeping up on the eve of Planner EOP. It's not that far away, and as we start looking at what's going on there, that is a hot button equipment market right now. I would be hard pressed to find a dealership that has a planner that is not sold, even if it's used. And I absolutely probably no used new ones out there anywhere that I can find anyway. So Kyle's going to come on and talk about what's happening. So Kyle, how you doing, man?
Good, Casey. Thanks for having me on.
No, I appreciate it. You, as usual, came up with a really great, outline kind of what you saw out there with some good graphs and some data that back those things up. As I look at the planner market right now, there's a big amount of people right now that want to sit back and say, you know what, I'm buying a new planner this year. I missed my chance last year, or the planner that I was going to get showed up in August or is going to show up in August or whatever it is. So I'm going to reorder my new one for 23 and figure out, we'll trade this brand new one back in, and it hasn't been used yet. I think that's going to happen. We're going to see that happen in a few places here and there. But the planner market, I've talked about it a million times in this podcast. In 2014, there was a huge exodus from the planner used equipment marketplace, where basically everyone just cleared their lots off of all seeding equipment, whether it's an air seeder, drill, box drill, whatever it was, right? Planner, didn't matter what it was. The biggest bulk of that stuff got pushed out into the auction marketplace, totally cleaned out the cupboard. And ever since then, slowly have been building this. Got a new one. Here comes the used one. The used one sold to this guy. This guy's buying a new one. It's just been an easy kind of flow back and forth of used equipment. Coronavirus hits. We see this huge amount of money kind of come into the marketplace. A lot of used planners got sold. A lot of new planners got sold. And now we're kind of back to this zero inventory, just in time demand type of approach to what we see happening. Kyle, as you look at the data, because you have a great auction data library for sure, no doubt about that, second to none. And then you started looking at the dealer listings that you started putting out there. I guess as you're looking at that data right now, what are you seeing?
Yeah, good question. And I think that's about the same question. Another one of our customers actually came to us and why we decided to build what we call an EOP planner report. So Andy and our team and some of the other folks in our data team spent a bunch of time analyzing the planner market, because Kurt Miller from Heritage Tractor actually called in and said, hey, I want to know what's going on in the used equipment planner market, because EOP is going to last all of, I don't know, maybe a day. So lucky. All those planners are going to, maybe an hour, all those planners are going to get filled up. And so we really dove into the John Deere planner used equipment marketplace, pulled out some really unique data that we're seeing. And I think the frame of reference is what should a good trade value be on a planner, right? So if you're talking to a customer at a dealership and you need to make a deal pretty quickly because those decisions are happening, what we're actually seeing is dealers having those conversations on trade-in values on planners way before, right? So that's going on right now. And EOP starts June 1st, about June 1st, is that right,
Typically
Casey?
In that time frame, yep.
Yeah, and so we wanted to analyze some of the most popular planners in the used planner market: 1775, 1770, 1790, 95, and then the DB60 and the whole DB series. And naturally, what we're seeing from a really macro level is, which goes along with almost every other asset class in agriculture equipment, late model, newer technology is selling super well. even if you look at 1775 or 1795 versus the 1770 or the 1790, 1770 or 1790 series, the older planners, that newer technology is bringing a premium in the marketplace. And I think it makes a bunch of sense, right? So you can prove ROI with a new planner model, newer technology. And when you have $7 corn, you can start to pay for new equipment much quicker. So that's really what we're seeing in the marketplace. But I think there's some unique factors that we're also seeing. But a question I have for you as we get this conversation rolling is, what kind of conversations are you having with some customers that are thinking about ordering a planner this spring? What is the climate within the dealership and all of your salespeople like right now?
I mean, I think right now we have a great opportunity to sell a lot of planners this year. I mean, there's a number of folks that are looking at upgrading what they have to offer. And the overwhelming majority of those folks are updating what they had, what they had coming in through up into 2021. And there are some of those folks that just flat missed the chance to order a new planner too. And that was another thing. So there's a number of opportunities that are popping up that we haven't seen in a while. It's been a while since we've had an opportunity to do this, where there has been some huge amount of kind of a gusto type thing to it. I mean, there's going to be people that want to buy planners, and we've got a lot of them out there. And I think more than anything, it's the technology side of it they're looking at, right? And we've talked about this on there too, that the ExactEmerge planner, the speed part of the ExactEmerge planner was used to be the number one reason when like in 2015, 2016. Oh yeah, we get that and just bang it out real fast. And the whole idea of, I had a 24-row planner and I can jump down to a 12 because it's twice as fast, and that didn't happen. It's just now I got a 24-row planner, I can go twice as fast and plant twice as much type of thing. I think now that's probably like almost a third or fourth reason why people want that planner. It's there's a lot of agronomics that are being driven by what emergence and spacing and singularity and all these different things that come into play. And I think that's where that thing's coming in. But this technology side of it is really starting to drive what we see happening there. And you're starting to see more of that technology kind of getting molded together that you didn't see before, where you've got a newer tractor and an older planner. And sometimes we've battled this with customers too, where we've seen, the guy's got a 25-year-old tractor, which is, if you think about it, it's not that, you're talking like a 2000, 2001, 2005 tractor, something like that, and trying to marry it up to a brand new planner, and just, you can't quite get it to operate correctly. And a lot of that is because, try to run your business system, Kyle, on Windows 95 and see how well it works, right? It just doesn't work that well, So you can update to a point, and then there comes a point in time where you have to move forward. And I think that's what's driving that. You've got this more robust technology that we haven't seen in the past, and it's merging together with the robust technology inside the tractor, and using all the functionality of that together. You're starting to see this drive to be more technologically driven in your purchasing thought process. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of money out there too, right? And there's guys that have money that want to build that up. And I've seen more interest in the upgrade kits on the planners, taking the older 10 or 15-year-old planner and turn it into a new planner, with the new row units and those kind of things. So there's going to be the conversations are there. What avenue they're going to go down is getting to be a tougher decision for them. They know they want a new one. They just don't know if they want to go upgrade kit, if they want to buy the brand new planner, because one's about twice as expensive as the other. And how's that play into the fact? So it'll be interesting to see what plays out there.
Hi, Paul. Yeah. Well, if we, so we built this report, and it covers the models I mentioned earlier. I thought it'd be interesting to just dive into a couple of them. Let's look at the 1790 versus the 1795, what we're seeing in the auction market, and a little bit into the dealer market is now that we're we're collecting prices and actually marketing equipment from about 1,200 dealer locations. So as we start to look at the 1790 versus 1795, it's pretty interesting as you start to look at what has happened year over year. So if you look at, especially in the supply, if you look at auction prices in Q1 of 2021, the average 1790 was selling for 56,000. Q1 2021, Q4 of 2021, they're selling for 72,000. Naturally, there's probably a little bit better quality that came to market there, but as soon as we went into Q1, we've actually had more volume in Q2 than we in Q1 2022 versus a year ago, and those prices have gone from 56,000 to 74,000. So as we start to look at that price increase, it's definitely there. Volume is there as well. So we've actually seen more volume in Q1 of 2022 than we have 2021. So really interesting to see that prices continue to climb, probably faster than tractors from that year over year time period, because tractors were the first to hit.
Yeah,
I think that was the first item that people were looking to upgrade. I think that was one of them that was probably neglected to upgrade in the 2018 to 2020 time period.
Yep.
But now we're really starting to see that in planters. If you compare that to the 1795, similarly, we've seen almost twice as many planters come to market in Q1. We've seen about the same number of 1795s come to market in 2022 Q1, and the price has actually come down. I think that's naturally a quality factor. There hasn't been a significant number come to market, so you start to see kind of those discrepancies. But naturally, I think you can see some of the demand for a little bit older planter. It goes back to maybe that opportunity that people are having, Casey, where they're starting to put some retrofit kits on these and go to precision planting, go to all of these aftermarket companies and helping rebuild those planters, simply because the new supply is not there. So I think that's something interesting that we're seeing from that planter segment.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think there's one thing out there for planters, that there's a lot of bolt-on technology that you can put on them, and a lot of that's available about anywhere you look, and that's an interesting thing there. You have some good data here where you're looking at just the overall climb and just what values went from, and that looks like that Q1 of 22 and Q3 of 21, which that's a very big planter selling period. You know, that last, going into the fourth quarter all the way through the fourth quarter and into the first quarter of the year typically is a big selling cycle for planters, and your data shows that. So there was a big spike there on your 1795 in that Q3, where you bounced up and kind of had some higher prices there than what you had elsewhere. But it shows you that, especially on the 1790, and that's the where they go from the second quarter of 21 up to the first quarter of 22, there was a pretty steep jump there. I mean, a $25,000 jump in the value of the machines that you see come in the marketplace. So it shows you that demand, and it shows you where those peaks and valleys are. And we're definitely headed into a high demand period right now.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think something else that we're seeing, if I kind of look at if I pull back and look at the overall market, look at volume, if you look at this chart right here, which is Q1, some interesting facts that we start to look at is how the percentage drop in 24 row planters available at market through the auction market. It hasn't really changed throughout the last three years, Q1 of 2020, 21, and 22. It's had a short, steady decline, but that's been very different than the 12 and 16 row planter market. You start to look at that smaller planter market, much higher number of those units at auction. But we've seen the biggest pullback in that 16 row or 16 that 16 row planter market. We've seen the supply really pull back there. And then the bigger the planter you go, once you get into DB60s and DB90s, DB120s, virtually non-existent in the auction market.
Right.
So one thing that starts to tell us is people aren't willing to take those to auction, and they're either selling them private party or they're taking them to a dealership and trading them in.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at your EOP, or the customers of how many planters you might be able to sell, how has the trend changed over the last 3 years on size of planter?
You know, I don't know that in my particular area that size of planters really changed that much. There's still a lot of 12 row guys out there that are getting after it. Most guys are looking at 12 row and then trying to say, is it worth going up to a 24 row? I will say one thing now, that we do have some 12 row guys jumping into a 16 row, and you're starting to see some of that happen a little bit, but I can't really tell you that we sell any more or any less 24 row planters than we did before. So like 12 row planters, I think are starting to slow down just a little bit. A lot of more 16 rows, I think, in your graph kind of showed that. I mean, as those auction numbers started to dwindle, I mean, obviously there's guys out there buying those. So it seems like the 16 rows starting to pick up steam, but 24 rows still kind of the king of the hill right now.
Yeah. So I think another thing that we're starting to try to answer the market is, as you mentioned earlier, it's really hard to look at the dealer market and start to peg prices there because they're virtually non-existent or they're already sold, right?
Right.
I think something that we are trying to figure out is what will happen in that EOP. How will people start to look at the return on their investments as interest rates continue to climb? Obviously, high profitability even on farms across the United States and really the world right now. How do you think people are thinking about sizing up the planter compared to maybe the horsepower that they have? Do you think people are starting to strategically look at bigger equipment, or are they really going for that more high-speed planter in today's world where you're at?
Primarily the biggest driver, and I'm seeing right now, are driven by two things. One is, do I have the horsepower to go 8 to 10 miles an hour with my 24 row planter? And when I'm making that upgrade decision, and most guys do. I mean, most guys have that capability. The other side of it too is the hydraulic capacity that we see now. More of these machines require a lot more hydraulic capacity than some of the even well-spec 10-year-old tractors have with them. So those are the two biggest driving factors by far and away. Do I have the horsepower to get to 8 to 10 miles an hour, and do I have the hydraulic capacity to run the planter or the implement in that matter the way it needs to be ran? So it's going to be that EOP. This EOP will be interesting to see what happens. I think we've had a lot of conversations with folks, and I think that it's going to be interesting to watch how much of this stuff comes together, how much of this stuff happens like we think it's going to happen, and what does that look like? I'll be honest with you, interest rates have got people scared right now, and people are looking at that. But I also think it's also a driving factor to buy something now. And I think if they can buy a used planter now, they're going to lock that in, because, I mean, there's no sign that interest rates are going to go backwards anytime soon, right? We don't see that happening, but it's the long-term view of what we see happening. There are some folks that are worried about interest rates and what does that look like, and what's the interest rate going to be in January, February, March, or whenever your planner shows up. You know, what's that interest rate going to look like? And unfortunately, most lending institutions, you don't have the ability to lock in a rate right now, you know, and do that. You lock it in for 30 days, you know, and anything you're buying, whether you're buying a house or a planner or whatever it is you're buying, you can lock that interest rate in for 30 days, and that's about it. And that's what we're seeing happen right now. So a lot of guys prepaying for stuff just to lock that rate in. So interest rate is on the front of people's mind. And I think the more as we go down that path and get closer to that time frame, it's going to be interesting to see if the interest rate conversation changes anyone's mind that said, yeah, I'm going to take a planter, or yeah, I'm going to do this, or yeah, I'm going to do that. I don't think it's going to be real honest with you. I think it's going to be, even though it's going to be whatever it is, I think 5.5% interest right now on most places, or more. Come next year, is it going to be another whole point? Is it going to be another 2 points? Who knows? But if you're talking about 5% on $400,000 now, or 7% on $400,000 now, I don't know how much that changes your actual payment, but it's not, it's not going to double your payment or something like that. So I don't know. It's such a fine line that we're walking right now. And I think that, assuming things kind of move forward like they're supposed to, you told me today it's going to be 92 or 3 or something like that there.
Yep.
And you've had the last 45 days have been the high of 40 in rain. So, I mean, you have a great opportunity to really start getting things warmed up and dried out and get back in the field and start planting. And you and I both know that you can look at this. I don't know why they even have it out there anymore, but the 5-year average on the crop progress report, planting report, it's, we're down big numbers right now.
Yeah.
And come in, 5 days from now of good solid weather, they're caught up. You know what I mean? So it's, I don't know. I don't, to me, I just think that by itself is a conversation that you have with a customer of, you're behind now, and now you're caught up. And the reason you're caught up is because you had the ability to go 8 to 10 miles an hour over 4 to 6 miles an hour. And now you can go out and make some things happen. And, oh, by the way, these other factors play into it. I think that's going to be a lot more of the driving factor as we see these things happen. So,
Yeah, it's you bring up a really good point, because it is the middle of May now. We haven't turned a wheel in most of Iowa. And I think people are starting to look at, okay, if I can upgrade my planter, I might have a really high interest rate payment. That payment very well might be coming in at 7% interest, 8% interest, based on what the Fed's looking to do in raising rates. Again, we don't know exactly what will happen, but I think there's all the indication that it'll continue to climb higher. But it's interesting today, as you look at planning progress across most of the United States, especially here in the Midwest. People want to get in timely. That could help sell more planters, because people are bullish on commodity prices going forward. So I don't know, maybe people will just figure out a way to pay cash when it comes January, when they take delivery, if people take delivery in January, or maybe it'll be right before planting. So has OEM's late delivery of planters this year affected, how has that affected the mindset of farmers or some customers that you're seeing across the country getting these planters a little bit later than what they expected?
Yeah, you would. I think it's happened so much and so often over the last 2.5 years that it's just, okay, well, great. That's kind of the, nobody's really that rattled by it anymore. Do we still get the, I can't believe this, and like, I can't either, type of thing? We still get that, but I mean, it's almost, it's amazing what you get used to, type of thing, and I think that's where we're at with a lot of that stuff, is that it's just everything else showing up late. I was hoping this would get here on time, but it's not going to, so I don't know.
But if you have to start your interest, if you have to start your P&I payment and you haven't received a planter next time, like, you start to get used to that. It's how you can start to afford that. But that being said, there's a lot of high net farm income being made right now. Maybe people will just determine to pay cash for a planter when it comes that time.
And it could very well turn into that, and we'll see what happens. But I think right now there's so much updating going on that there's a lot of cash that'll have to float around to take care of some of that stuff. And I think that's the biggest driving factor more than anything, is just two things. One, are people are just thinking about what the overall aspect of interest rates, and when am I going to get it, and do I want to have, if this kind of early long lasting spring thing happens again, how fast do I need to be able to plant my crop to get to that optimal time so I can make sure I have the best yield possible. And
Mhm.
I think that's where now people are thinking about that more than anything, especially in your neck of the woods. I mean, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, you just run through the heart of the corn soybean belt, and it's been cold and wet. And even northern right now, I mean, northern belt is even really cold and wet. I mean, what you would expect that, but not to the extent that it's been. I mean, went from 100-year drought to the flooding of the Red River. I mean, it's just crazy up there right now.
Mhm.
Crazy.
Well, I think as we wrap this up, I think one thing I'd offer to any of your listeners, if anybody would like to read our EOP planner report, 7-page report that our data team put together, covers a couple of those models, just shoot us an email, or shoot Tyler Lowy an email on our team, tlowy, LOWY, @tractorzoom.com, and we'd be happy to share that with you.
Right on, man. Well, Kyle, folks want to reach out and get more information from you. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn, or just give me a call on my cell phone. Shoot me a text, 641-919-5953. If you're looking for farm equipment coming up for sale, simply go to tractorzoom.com. And again, if you're interested in that EOP planner report, looking at some planner prices and analytics, shoot Tyler Lowy an email at tlowy, LOWY, @tractorzoom.com.
Make sure you guys shoot him that email. I'm looking at it right now, and there's tons of information there. So, Kyle, your team's doing a great job, man. Keep up the hard work. I really appreciate what you guys are doing for the community here. And I think what you have is like I've said a million times, an unbiased report that you're just reporting the data. You don't really have a dog in the race. So it's kind of refreshing to see that right now. So, man, appreciate what you guys are doing over there.
Thanks, Casey. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. I'm Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. Make sure you check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's where you find all these Moving Iron podcasts at Moving Iron LLC. Go to the Moving Iron website at movingironllc.com, where you can find all the information for the upcoming Moving Iron Summit, Nashville, Tennessee. Also, LinkedIn page is at Moving Iron Podcast, and I'm trying to grow the old YouTube channel here. So anyone that wants to not sponsor, that'd be great. If anybody wants to sponsor that, jump in. But if anybody just wants to subscribe to that, go to Moving Iron Podcast YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button there. So with that, I'm Casey Seymour with Kyle McMahon. Smooth some iron, folks. Out.
Moving iron in the 21st century. Hardworking people working hard for you and me. Moving iron, time and time again. Through the years, you'll find us here.